Hey loves, Tony here from TL Yarn Crafts, and I've got another fun tutorial for you. Today we're learning how to cross stitch on Tunisian crochet. The Tunisian simple stitch creates a grid-like fabric perfect for cross stitching. After watching this video, you'll have the skills to make a small swatch like this heart, or something even bigger like this stay-home wall hanging, because you know, quarantine. You can find a link to this project in the description below. Now let's talk tools. To cross stitch on Tunisian crochet, you first have to make the Tunisian crochet fabric from the Tunisian simple stitch. If you're new to the concept of Tunisian crochet, hop over to my Tunisian basics tutorial to learn more about that. I've linked the video below. You'll want a tighter fabric than we normally make with Tunisian crochet, so try using the hook size recommended on the ball band of your yarn. I made my fabric with worsted weight yarn and a 5mm crochet hook. This does cause a lot of curling, which is normal in Tunisian crochet. I steam blocked my piece lightly before starting to relax those curls. To do that, pin the fabric face down, steam it with a steam iron or garment steamer, then let it dry completely. When it comes to blocking cross stitch fabric, you can absolutely save this step until the end if you want, but blocking early just makes things a bit easier. I recently upgraded my blocking mats to these premium ones from We Crochet, and I love them. I've got a link to those down below as well. Next, you'll need the yarn that you're planning to cross stitch with. I'm using another worsted weight yarn today, which is the same weight of yarn as my Tunisian simple stitch fabric. You'll also need a tapestry needle. I prefer to use the metal ones. Just make sure that the needle has a blunt tip so you don't split the strands of your simple stitch fabric during the cross stitch process. Also, grab some scissors. Finally, you need your cross stitch art. You can find cross stitch art and alphabets online, in books, and in kits at craft stores. You can also design your own cross stitch art in a program like Stitch Fiddle, or print off graph paper and color in the designs yourself. Since we're only practicing today, we're going to keep things simple and use this little heart that I made. There's a link to this art in the description below. Here I've got my Tunisian crochet fabric. It's all dry and ready to go. And to start my project, I need to identify my starting space. For my heart, I'm going to start at the bottom tip, so I need to find the space on my Tunisian crochet fabric that is 5 spaces from the bottom and 10 spaces in from the right. And then I like to mark that space just with a dot of Sharpie, but that is completely optional. Grab a length of your yarn and thread it through your tapestry needle. Anchor the yarn in place by weaving it under several loops on the wrong side of your fabric until you get to your marked stitch. And now we're ready to work the first leg of our cross stitch. We're working in the tiny hole just to the right of where 2 vertical bars meet. You can see that I'm inserting my tapestry needle into that hole. To make my first cross, I'm going to come up through the hole. And I'm going to pull my yarn all the way through, and that really helps me maintain tension. Then I'm going to find the hole diagonally to the right and go down, and that's my first leg. And I started with a right leaning leg. To finish this stitch, I'll come up through the hole just below where I went down, if I can find it. Oh, yep, there it is. Okay. Come all the way through. Again, I like to pull my yarn all the way up, and then I'm going to find the hole diagonal to the left to finish the cross. And basically that's it. You just keep doing crosses until you've completed your art. I'm going to switch up the angle and time lapse through making this heart and give you some tips on keeping your Tunisian crochet cross stitch nice and neat. Tip number 1, make sure you're always pushing your needle through the hole I showed you and not through the threads of your fabric or your threaded yarn. This will keep your crosses crisp. Tip number 2, keep your legs consistent. What I mean is, if you start with a left leaning leg, make sure you always do those first. It'll become obvious if you switch it up in the middle of your project. Tip number 3, keep your lengths of yarn relatively short. When adding new yarn to your project, I would suggest cutting your strands about the length of one arm. This keeps things manageable and prevents too much twisting. And tip number 4, don't be afraid to experiment. Once you get the hang of cross stitch on Tunisian crochet, try introducing new colors, working with finer or heavier yarns, and explore some funky fonts. Today, I just made a swatch, but I'm imagining embellishing baby blankets, making fun framed sayings for gifts, and sewing Tunisian crochet patches on my denim jackets. Now that would be so badass. After weaving in the last end, our swatch is all done. Now, if you're trying cross stitch on Tunisian crochet, be sure to share it with me. Tag at TL Yarn Crafts on Instagram or join me and thousands of my maker friends in the TLYC Makers Facebook group. And be sure to check out the Stay Home Wall Hanging. The full project is available on my blog for free, tlycblog.com. Well, I'm Tony of TL Yarn Crafts, and thanks for joining me on this video. I'll see you next time.